Hello everyone, and welcome back to Iraqi Dinar News. Today we're diving straight into one of the most talked about stories shaking up the global currency world. A supposed leaked memo claiming contract rates as high as 4.90 for the Iraqi Dinar and 3.10 for the Vietnamese Dong. Yeah, you heard that right. Those numbers are jaw-dropping, and they've got everyone from small-time holders to major investors buzzing with excitement, confusion, and a healthy dose of skepticism. So, grab your coffee and settle in, because we're unpacking exactly what's going on, what these figures mean, and what could really be behind this so-called leak. Now, for those who've been in this space for a while, you already know that whenever rates like these start circulating, the entire dinar and dong community lights up like fireworks. People are asking, is this real? Is this another rumor? Or is there actually something brewing behind the scenes that we're finally getting a peek at? Whatever the truth may be, these numbers are massive, and if they ever materialize, they'd represent one of the biggest currency revaluations in modern history. Let's start with the Iraqi dinar. It's a currency with one of the most dramatic stories in financial history. Once upon a time, before wars and sanctions, it was among the strongest in the Middle East. But decades of conflict and economic isolation hit it hard, driving it down to the point where $1 equals roughly 1,300 to 1,400 dinars today. So when you hear about a possible rate of 4.90 per dinar, it sounds almost too incredible to believe. To put that in perspective, a 25,000 dinar note, worth about $20, right now it would suddenly be valued at more than $120,000. That's why people are paying attention. The Vietnamese Dong has a similar but uniquely fascinating story. Vietnam's economy has grown like crazy over the past decade. Factories, exports, and foreign investments have been pouring in. Yet its currency remains one of the most undervalued in Asia, sitting around 25,000 dong per US dollar. So a rumored contract rate of $3.10 per dong? That's nothing short of transformational. Imagine holding 1 million dong currently worth less than $50, suddenly jumping to a staggering $3 million in value. That's the kind of rumor that can send waves across the entire financial world. But before we get carried away, we need to understand what contract rates actually mean. These aren't the same as the public exchange rates you'd see at a bank or currency counter. A contract rate is typically a private, negotiated rate offered under special circumstances to certain groups or individuals. It might come with agreements, restrictions, or specific obligations. In short, it's not the rate the general public would see if they walked into a bank after a revaluation. These kinds of rates are often linked to private redemption programs. In theory, participants might be offered higher rates if they agree to certain terms, like reinvesting funds into infrastructure, keeping money in special accounts, or even signing non-disclosure agreements. So if these leaked numbers are real, they'd fall squarely into that private category. It wouldn't necessarily mean everyone will get those same rates. Now, from a technical point of view, revaluing a currency, especially to that level, would require massive financial and political coordination. Iraq has huge oil reserves, which gives it a strong foundation, but turning that wealth into a stable currency value isn't easy. You'd need international backing, a functioning central banking system, and clear agreements with global financial bodies. It's not as simple as flipping a switch. For Vietnam, the story looks a bit different. The country is becoming a manufacturing hub for the world. It's a rising star in Asia's economy, with deep trade ties and growing GDP. So while a revaluation could make sense in the long term, a leap all the way to 3.10 per dong would be historic, and almost certainly require gradual phasing or selective rollout to avoid economic shockwaves. Of course, these conversations always tie into the much larger theory of a global currency reset, or GCR. The idea is that multiple undervalued currencies might revalue together as part of a coordinated effort to balance global wealth. Supporters believe leaks like this one are early signs of that plan being set in motion. Critics, however, argue that while currencies can and do appreciate, it happens slowly, under tight control, not through overnight explosions in value. Still, when rates like 4.90 and 3.10 surface in a supposed memo, it's easy to see why people get excited. Let's think about logistics for a second. If Iraq's dinar or Vietnam's dong were suddenly revalued at those figures, global financial systems would need to react instantly. Forex platforms, central banks, even software systems like Bloomberg terminals would have to update in real time. That takes coordination, not chaos, which is why many believe any real revaluation would need to be staged over time, not sprung overnight. And that brings us to another big question. How would a revaluation like this actually unfold? Would there be appointment-only exchange centers? Would rates differ between public and private exchanges? Would there be tiers based on the amount of currency held? Each scenario paints a different picture and could drastically change how average holders experience it. The appeal of this entire story isn't just financial, it's emotional. For many, holding the dinar or the dong isn't just an investment. It's a belief, the hope that one day a small decision could transform their lives forever. That a handful of notes bought years ago might become the key to financial freedom. That dream has kept people engaged through years of rumors, updates, and leaks just like this one. At the same time, we have to balance that hope with realism. Skeptics are right to remind everyone that these rates are extremely high and that no solid, verified evidence has surfaced. For a currency to sustain such values, it must be backed by real assets, trade power, and stable governance. Without those, it's just speculation, and speculation alone can't hold up an entire financial system. That's not to say a revaluation can't happen, but if it does, most analysts agree it'll likely be a gradual process. Incremental increases over time as economies strengthen and reforms take effect. That path might not sound as exciting, but it's the one that makes the most sense in a global financial context. Leaks, of course, are nothing new. Sometimes they're genuine, sometimes they're strategic, released intentionally to gauge reactions, steer attention, or even manipulate sentiment. So when we see specific figures like these pop up, it's important to ask, why now? Who benefits from this leak being public? Those answers often tell you more than the numbers themselves. And yet, even with all that in mind, it's impossible to ignore the energy this story creates. It's not just about economics anymore. It's about belief, timing, and the possibility of something big just around the corner. Whether you're a long-term holder, a cautious observer, or someone new to the conversation, you can feel that spark of curiosity. The truth is, no one outside the highest levels of finance and government can confirm if these leaked contract rates are real. But what we can say is that their appearance and the reactions they generate show how deeply people care about these currencies and what they represent. For some, this is about wealth creation. For others, it's about global equality, transparency, or even national pride. The Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong symbolize hope for economic renewal, not just for investors, but for the nations themselves. And that's what keeps this conversation alive year after year. So, whether this latest memo turns out to be a preview of history in the making or just another round of speculation, one thing is clear. The world is watching. Every whisper, every leak, every hint of a shift in policy gets amplified because deep down, people sense that something big could be coming. Thank you so much for watching today's deep dive into this breaking RV update. If you found this discussion helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Iraqi Dinar News, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Stay informed, stay alert, and as always, keep your eyes on the charts, because the next headline might just change everything.